What's up everybody? I'm here to showcase this wild Cerebro 3 deck. Now that Gambit has become a 3 cost, 3 powered card, I thought it would be interesting to try out a discard package in conjunction with the Cerebro 3 package. So this deck is very experimental, it's pretty crazy, but I'm going to go over the details of the cards in the deck as well as possible replacements, and then my turn by turn breakdown as usual, and then I'll show a conquest run that I had while playing this deck on my last live stream. So it was a lot of fun to play. With Cerebro decks, they are usually pretty inconsistent because you may or may not draw Cerebro, and adding in that discard package kind of adds to that inconsistency even more. So if you are just looking for a deck to climb the ranks with, maybe don't try this one at home, but if you're already at infinite rank or you're just looking for something fun to play in the proving grounds in conquest mode, go ahead and give this deck a try, experiment with it, and let me know what you think. So let's get into it. So here is the Assassin Cerebro 3 deck that I've been experimenting with. You can see we have the obvious Cerebro 3 package with Cerebro, cards like Valkyrie and Iron Man and Wasp, who you can hit up to 3 power with Valkyrie, Luke Cage for protection from getting your cards power discounted, and Scarlet Witch to change up some bad locations if needed. But note, we do not have Mystique, which is usually an auto-include in every Cerebro deck, but we have cut her out for a discard package that includes Blade, Swarm, Gambit, Moon Knight, and Ghost Rider. All of those just happen to be exactly 3 power now, so I thought it would be good to try them out. You might be able to discard Swarm with Gambit or Moon Knight and bring any discarded card back with Ghost Rider. So the great thing about this deck, it is pretty budget friendly. It uses no Series 4 or Series 5 cards. It does have 7 Series 3 cards in it, but if you have Series 3 complete, you can make this deck and try it out. If you don't have all these cards, not to worry, we're about to go into some possible replacements. So on the left here is the version of the deck that I was using, but on top, these are some cards that can be replaced. So obviously you could just get rid of the whole discard destroy package with Gambit, Moon Knight, Ghost Rider, if you do want to just go with a more standard Cerebro deck that might have cards like Bast, Mystique, or anything with 3 power. Honestly, Cosmo, Killmonger, whatever it might be, if it has 3 power, it can work with Cerebro 3 deck. To look at the unique win conditions for this deck, we are hoping to discard something with Gambit. That could either mean discarding Swarm to get more free copies of a 3-powered Swarm in our hand, or discarding a card like Sentinel, who we can play on board first and then have the copy discarded from our hand, so it's not like we're really losing anything. You can then bring something back with Ghost Rider. Maybe you got fortunate and discarded Iron Man or Valkyrie. Bring them back on turn 4 with Ghost Rider to fill up your board with more 3-power cards, and then obviously we're hoping to drop Cerebro at some point to power up all of our 3-powered cards to become 5-powered cards. Now this deck is pretty dependent on drawing Cerebro or the right cards you need, being able to bring stuff back with Ghost Rider if you discarded stuff, but there are some good and bad matchups that will change those odds a bit as well. So combo decks, we can actually mess up a good amount if we end up dropping Gambit and or Moon Knight. If your opponent is relying on a specific combo and you play Moon Knight and you discard one of those core pieces from their hand, that's going to be really good for you. Okay, same thing with Gambit. If your opponent's just playing a couple big things and you can kill one of them with Gambit, that's going to be great. If your opponent's playing something with Hazmat or something with high Evo to reduce the power of your cards, this deck does run Luke Cage, so you can just completely negate that if you end up drawing Luke Cage. And lastly, we are running Scarlet Witch in this deck. She's so good in Cerebro decks because she can get rid of annoying locations, but she can also be used to counter magic. If your opponent is hoping to have a 7-turn game, you can go ahead and drop Scarlet Witch on turn 6 to end it right then and there. For the bad matchups, we have the normal Cerebro counters. Something like Red Skull, which will actually give your cards more power, is really hard to deal with. Okay, Luke Cage can prevent your cards from having their power lowered and losing Cerebro's buff that way, but there's nothing to stop your cards from having their power boosted. So Red Skull giving your cards power in only one location means the other two locations will not have those cards boosted by Cerebro, and that's pretty annoying for us. Cards like Enchantress or Rogue can also counter this deck, as Cerebro and Iron Man are 0 power if you don't have their ongoing. They would just do nothing, so that's a bit rough if you get hit with one of those. And lastly, with the Gambit and Moon Knight package, if your opponent is playing some kind of discard or destroy deck, especially if they're using something like Wolverine, that may mean you just aren't going to get great value out of Gambit or Moon Knight. You might have to just hold on to them or pray that you hit something else besides Wolverine or Nimrod, something along those lines. Now let's talk about some good and bad locations that you should be on the lookout for. So we are running Cerebro and Iron Man in this deck, so anything that boosts ongoing abilities is going to be really great for it. And most of the cards in this deck are pretty cheap. Most are 3 or less. So if you have locations that favor lower powered cards, that's going to be pretty good for you, especially if your opponent is playing a heavier deck. And if you do draw Luke Cage, then any locations that reduce the power of cards there is great for you, because your cards will stay at their normal power with Luke Cage on board, but your opponent will have a really hard time keeping up with your power in that location. To talk about some bad locations, it's going to be really tough to win on locations that actually give your cards power. Again, this is the same problem coming from a card like Red Skull. It's really hard to deal with that with Cerebro. You can prevent your cards from having their power reduced, but not increased. So if you have a location that's giving your cards power, you need to ignore it or just drop Scarlet Witch on it. This deck will also struggle with locations that just don't let you play cards, or it destroys your cards, something along those lines, because it doesn't have anything to get cards into that location. Okay, there's no Jeff in this deck, nothing like Dr. Doom or Mr. Fantastic, so you're going to want to take safe retreats if you see locations that really limit your ability to play there. And the same goes for Crimson Cosmos. Again, a lot of cards in this deck are very cheap, so unless you're able to pull off a nice Wasp plus Valkyrie in Crimson Cosmos, that might be a tough location for you. Now let's get into the turn-by-turn breakdown. Now on turn 1, you could end up playing Blade if you have a card like a Swarm in your hand, but if you like your hand as is, and especially if you have not drawn Ghost Rider yet, I would just hold on to Blade. You can always save him for turn 6 if you play him alongside a 5-drop. For turn 2, this deck has a good amount of options. The only 2-drop I would try to hold off on playing would be Swarm, just because we are going to hope to discard him through our other cards. But a card like Sentinel is really ideal because it lets us get a 3-powered body on the board, and it will give us a card in hand. So even if we start discarding things, our hand is still going to have a good size, and we might just discard that extra Sentinel instead of a card we really like, such as Cerebro. Turn 3 is where the fun starts. We are hoping to drop something like Gambit or Moon Knight so we can really start messing with our opponents. Now Gambit we can drop later if we want in hopes to hit something really big for our opponent, but it is random. You don't know what card he's going to go for, and sometimes right on turn 3 works out well. We might hit an Angela, a Zabu, a Bishop, something like that that our opponent is thinking will really power up as the game goes on. Now if we did discard something with Gambit or Moon Knight and we have Ghost Rider in hand, we're almost certainly going to play Ghost Rider right on turn 4 every single time. He's just going to bring something back. Even if it's smaller like Sentinel or Luke Cage, some other 2-drop, he's still going to just give you power on the board and help set up for Cerebro coming later. So we'll look at a situation where Gambit discarded Iron Man and Ghost Rider brings him back on turn 4. Turn 5, we can look to play something like Luke Cage and Cerebro. If we didn't get Cerebro down earlier, it's great to just pair him with a 2-cost card to drop. Also, you want to play Cerebro on a location where you have other cards that are less than 3 power, if you do have Valkyrie in hand, and we'll see that next turn, but it's really nice to just group them together and just buff up everything with Valkyrie all in one go. So on turn 6, we might be able to play something like Wasp plus Valkyrie on our lane with Cerebro to buff up everything to 3 power. And then if you do have Blade in your hand, he's great alongside Iron Man or Valkyrie on turn 6, just because he's only 1 cost, but he has that 3 power gold standard that we love for Cerebro. Now if our plays did look like this during a game, we would end with 10, 20, and 20 power across the board, as well as having Luke Cage's protection from any negative debuffs on our cards, and Gambit having hit something on your opponent's side of the board. Hopefully it's something good, but he's pretty inconsistent with what he chooses. So this deck is not the biggest power deck. It's more trying to add in some disruption with Gambit and Moon Knight, and to just keep your opponent guessing. Okay, again, it's a bit inconsistent, definitely not as viable in a competitive sense as most of the decks I like to showcase, but it was a fun one. It was some nice theory crafting, and I think I'll touch on it again after we get some more card releases with powerful cards that have 3 power. So that's enough talking. Let's take a look at this fun Conquest run that I played with this deck. All right, ooh, wait a minute. This is interesting. Let me stick this guy behind here. That's a little sneaky. Miniaturized lab. Okay, if I get Valkyrie behind here is also very nice. So I'm just gonna sneak all my cards behind Dark Dimension. Maybe that's our plan. And our opponent has not played anything yet. I think I've played them, Among Us fan, and you know, we've seen better locations. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. We've seen better locations in our day. I guess I'm sticking Gambit behind here. Wasp is here because we have nothing better to do. Okay, we don't have anything discarded, but we could play Iron Man over here. And Valkyrie.
I am Iron Man.
What did our opponent get? I hate... Oh, they got Iron Man themselves. No, that's not what we like to see. They snapped on us. Okay, we're going to take their retreat, bad locations. Our opponent has no idea what we're playing. They've only seen a Ghost Rider and a Wasp. And that alone might be a bit confusing. But I don't think they suspect a Cerebro deck. So I think we have the element of surprise. And our opponent is maybe playing Tribunal. They've got Iron Lad and Iron Man. The Iron Boys. I think that's maybe a Tribunal deck, which we love to see.
Breaking news.
Okay, Magic. I will save the Scarlet Witch. I'm going to wait on Blade until I get more cards in my hand and duplicate some Sentinels. Savage Land. Take some space, but it's okay. Alright, what do we get out here? Our opponent just kind of waits. They must be playing a Tribunal deck, right? They just kind of skip the first turns. You know, as a Cerebro deck, we don't love that. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay. We're gonna play Cerebro, although we now have these 5 powered cards, which is kind of whack. Do they play Magic though? Give us the Magic. Okay, it's all coming together. As long as they don't have Legion, it's all coming together. We can Ghost Rider, Blade next turn. Turn 6, we will do some magic shenanigans. Or Scarlet Witch. We're going to Scarlet Witch on the left. And that almost certainly wins that location. Okay, I think we're looking good here. Our opponent might have dropped Iron Lad right now, so we'll see what they pull. Just don't pull Iron Man again. Invisible Woman. Okay, I'm very certain this is a Tribunal deck. So I was thinking on Scarlet Witch. But I could also, I'm going to Blade into Ghost Rider. I'm going to Ghost Rider left just in case Blade discards Scarlet Witch already. And last turn we can throw out Gambit and stuff. Yeah, we're popping off. Okay, Sentinel. Okay, we're okay. Do we snap on the last turn here? Is that an obvious we beat you? We snapped on the last turn. Maybe I'll take a couple seconds so it's not obvious I have Scarlet Witch. Maybe that's the move here. We're gonna milk it a bit, take our time, doing some thanking. But we're gonna do Scarlet Witch left. And the right, I don't know how the right's going. I just know that it is, in fact, going. They could have Iron Man and stuff behind there. So we're going to snap here and end the turn. We should have snapped a turn earlier, I think, but this is okay. Turn earlier would have been better, just in case Scarlet Witch got discarded and brought back anyways. Boom! Oh, I got plus 100 power there. That's pretty cool. Thank you, Scarlet Witch. Gambit, you know, you'll do better next time, bud.
I am.
They did have the Iron Man. They were hiding the Tribunal. We love to see it. Very cool. We got the 8 cubes. Wow. With a Cerebro discard destroy deck. We pulled it together. How did we do it? I'm not sure, but we did it. Scarlet Witch taking fat dubskis out here. Is my opponent sticking around? Are they not? They're not conceding? Okay. I guess we're sticking around this one. Mindscape cannot be good for my opponent. I'm gonna immediately snap. And they also snapped and gave me the fist bump. We love to see it. Alright, Nebula, okay. Aunt May's, interesting. We're gonna try and get a Gambit here. They might skip this turn. They don't really have any early cards. Never mind, I'm a liar. They have Invisible Woman. But Gambit's gonna hit something. So let's hit something. And if something besides Ghost Rider gets discarded, that's great for us. And our opponent cannot use magic on Mindscape. I thought they were gonna... I mean, they played Invisible Woman on the middle lane and she moved over, so they might have kind of forgotten. Hopefully we don't hit Electro. You know, Gambit, he's doing his own thing. He's just kind of just killing stuff, so... It's okay, bud. It's okay. Let's just drop Moon Knight. We'll see what happens when we drop Moon Knight. Iron Lad, okay. Magic. They did get magic in the middle. They might play her again next turn. We got rid of their Tribunal. We lost our Scarlet Witch. So they think. And we're going to get whatever big cards they have in their hand next turn. I mean, we're getting their juicy hand. They have a good hand. We do not. Ghost Rider could get Blade is the only problem, and Blade could discard Swarm, but that didn't happen. We took that calculated risk there. Oh. Wow. Okay, so if I'm looking at the cards I gave my opponent, I didn't give them good stuff. But if they did get Iron Man on the left, that's pretty nice. I think they might have taken this one. Are they trying to make a comeback here? I think they're taking round number 3 against us. Okay, they got the Swarm down. They got the Magic, and I think they beat the tiebreaker, almost certainly. With Iron Man? Is it Iron Man or Onslaught? Onslaught, okay, they still beat the tiebreaker. Alright, we got ourselves a game here. This person is holding on to these 2 lives. If they want that silver ticket, we're gonna have to beat them again to get them out of here. I think. Unless they decide to randomly concede. But we've seen almost all of their deck. We're missing 3 cards. Could be Claw or something. Sinister London. Okay. That's great for my opponent. I mean, that's a dream for Iron Man Onslaught. I have to get rid of that location, I think. But maybe my opponent wants me to get rid of that location. We did get Cerebro. If I can get Gambit and I have Cerebro, that's going to be pretty good. Okay. Yeah, so that's smart by them to do magic over there. Because now I have to pick. But we're going to pop out Cerebro, and then we're going to figure out where we want to play Scarlet Witch. Maybe if we don't draw Gambit or Moon Knight, we will Scarlet Witch the middle. And if we do draw Gambit or Moon Knight, we will Scarlet Witch at the right. Okay. Okay. And they're both going left. I can Valkyrie there. Oh no, the other Cerebro doesn't move. Okay. So they got rid of their Cosmo. Whew. Oh yeah, we're gonna try and give it to him here, and then our Ghost Rider can actually pop off. So let's go ahead and do this. Okay, they lose Wave, we lose Swarm. That's perfect. That is perfect. They lose Tribunal, we lose Ghost Rider. Okay, so we're on the final turn. They did get Iron Man. Go right.
I am
Perfect. So I think, actually, depends where Onslaught goes. Honestly, if their Onslaught goes right, they kind of win. If he goes left, maybe I win. So where does Onslaught go? That's the question of the day here.
I am Iron Man.
I think Onslaught left, we win.
Iron
Onslaught
Man.
right, my opponent wins. Oh, maybe I win the middle. Am I wrong? I don't know. Onslaught, Iron Man is strong. Dang, he took him out. I just won anyways. Didn't matter if it got right. I did not math correctly, but for my favor. So we actually took a Dubski against this Tribunal deck. I don't know how we did it, but we did it. Thank you all for watching. Remember to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time.